I'm delighted to be here this morning to talk to you all about kicking off the client conversation around sustainability for your events. So as Anna says, I work for George P. Johnson. We're an events agency. So I'm hoping that some of this will be really kind of useful for those of you that sort of lead the client conversations and events at your agencies, but hopefully there'll be some interesting inspiration points for those of you that work in different setups too. So yes, I'll be talking about my top 10 tips for kicking off your sustainable event. And moving straight on to number one, I think the first thing everyone should be doing is, really doing your research. It's a sort of common mantra of client servicing that you should know your brand inside out and know your client's brand inside out. So really kind of researching and asking the questions around, what are the brand's corporate sustainability objectives? Do they have any specific marketing or events sustainability goals? What wins have they achieved in this area so far? Do sustainability benchmarks already exist in events? And if not, like, what are competitors doing? What are other like businesses doing out there around the topic? Number two is talk openly. So it can be quite nerve-wracking starting the sustainability conversation with your client, because as an account director or as a project lead, you don't know whether your client is going to want the world from you or whether they're going to completely disagree with everything that you say. But really go into that first conversation trying to understand your client's perspective, what their ambitions are around the topic. And the research that you've done so far should kind of really arm you with a rationale around event sustainability and why it's important. And I would just say, have a point of view and voice it there as well. Your client might understandably be hesitant or nervous or, overwhelmed. It's a complex topic, but really you want to kind of gather as much insight into the opportunities and the blockers that may exist within their teams and their organization ahead of time. And, hopefully you'll leave that conversation agreeing that you should partner for a better sustainability approach for your event and have some kind of key, explicit or implicit direction that will help you formulate your plan as you move forward. So number three is really understand what you can influence and what you can control. I think this is a really important one. Isla have a fantastic exercise that you can do with your clients or you can do internally as within your project teams. But this helps you really understand across the entire spectrum of your event, what things can you influence and what things you can control. So typically, as an example, an agency might have complete sort of autonomy around their food and beverage program at an event. They can decide where that food is being sourced from, the amounts, what it's served on, how it's packaged. But in an area like energy, you're probably working with a venue who you can partner with to help control the amount of energy that you're using across your event, but not necessarily where that energy is sourced and where it's coming from. So this is important because really it helps you decide which areas of your event you can have real control over and areas that you can make a real impact in. So number four is know the rules of the budget. Budgets are tricky ones, and it's always important to kind of understand things like who the budget stakeholders are. Can money be ring-fenced to support sustainability initiatives? Can reductions in certain areas help boost funding for things that may potentially be more expensive, or can any trade-offs be made? But really understanding this will help you kind of drive decision-making and sign-offs around sustainability activities that you want to implement at your event. Number five is nail your objectives. And I think, as soon as you can do this, the better. I mean, if you can set some sustainability objectives at the beginning of project kickoff, then that's great. Marketing 101 will tell you that these objectives need to be SMART, so specific, measurable, agreed, realistic, and time bound. And I would just say, keep it as simple as you can. If you're, working with a client across a series of events, or you work with them year on year, think about setting one or two goals to begin with and building on these over time. You'll also need to understand how you're going to measure against these. So you're most likely going to need to collect a substantial amount of data around things like production or transport or catering. and think ahead of time about who you're going to need to help you collect that data. So probably your venues, probably the suppliers that you're working with. And I would just say, even if no benchmarks already exist and you don't know, what good looks like, just start by collecting the data, because that's, going to be really, really helpful and inform you as you start trying to set more goals and be more ambitious around sustainability. So number six is manage expectations. So your objectives should really help you do this, but be clear about where the client and their teams are going to need to support as well, and where you're going to rely on sort of the partnership and expertise of others, like your suppliers, like your venues. I think it's also, from an agency point of view, be honest about what you think can be achieved within your project scope. If there's a case for asking for more hours, then go ahead and do that. And if not, then potentially think about having conversations internally about, is this something that you decide that you want to invest in and put more hours towards? Ultimately, I think the one kind of thing that's really helped me in managing expectations is this idea of progress, not perfection. I think certainly when you're starting out, trying to make your events more sustainability, there is absolutely no point in aiming for perfection. It doesn't exist, but really, take stock in the fact that if you're progressing and making things better, then that's a really fantastic thing. Number 7 is keep communicating. So don't let sustainability fall off the bottom of your list of priorities. It's so easy for that to happen, but really, if you can make it an official work stream in the product, give it an owner, add it as a weekly or monthly meeting agenda, but just don't let it kind of fall off the radar. And the last couple of ones are around your teams as well. So number 8, I think, very important to be clear with the team about, what the visions are, what the vision is, what the objectives are, what your expectations are, and explaining how, each person is going to contribute overall to sustainability at the event. And really, if it's a new thing, I think it's important to listen to and address concerns. People might be nervous around it. People might be a bit confused by it. But yeah, definitely listen to those concerns and try and support teams around whatever it is that you're trying to implement. And again, this progress, not perfection, is an important one. Number 9 is motivate. So, if you're as lucky as I've been, then there'll be loads of people at your agency that are really passionate about this subject already and putting their hands up and will put, extra effort and time in to kind of help achieve these goals. But yeah, this is new and it is different, and it's going to start defining our industry. So I think it's really important to motivate teams around it. There's going to be a lot of learning, but ultimately people will be significantly upskilled in doing this. And I think, I would just say, if anyone is struggling with this, then perhaps look at seeking sort of a senior agency bod to help motivate and support you in really getting the teams rallied around the topic of sustainability. And finally, the 10th one is communicate, share and celebrate. As I said in the previous point, there's going to be loads of learning. So set up a way of sharing your work, if that's a Google Doc, if that's a notice board, if that's a weekly call, if someone, identifies a really great new supplier or gets signed off for a great new sustainability initiative, then, just make sure you're celebrating that. And, we're very fortunate in agency world to kind of be surrounded by people that have such diverse knowledge and disciplines, pull people in from other teams, make sure you're sort of shouting about your successes with the rest of the agency, not just within your project team, and really kind of help share that information and inspire and incentivize others to do the same. So Anna asked me to kind of boil this down into 3 key takeaways for you. And I think the first one I would say is, just start. It is a complex issue. It is new. It does require sort of new strategies and new approaches, but just starting is the best advice I can give. The control and influence thing is really important and will help you kind of focus on where you can have impact. And then finally, progress, not perfection, I think is also a key one.